And today we have Shanalise Ochoa from the County District Attorney's Office. So Deputy Ochoa will be sharing a little bit of information about the law, what career opportunities exist. And so with that, perhaps Shanalise, let's do a softball question. Maybe you can share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into some legal questions, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in law. Let's start there.
I love that. Thank you, Dr. Ayala, so much. Happy to be here. Yes, I have been, believe it or not, a deputy district attorney here in San Diego for 22, almost 23 years now. And prior to that, I was a city attorney here in San Diego, and I even have some civil litigation experience. So my call to the law started kind of like most things is in my schooling. I was in college at UC Santa Barbara, and I had a wonderful professor who really encouraged me to get more education, and the way that he did it, knowing my competitive spirit. And he said, there's only about 0.5% of Latinos that have a graduate degree. And I was like, what? And I thought, when I heard that, well, if there's nothing else I can do, I can increase that number. So that really kind of started me on the path, right? We all have great educators in our history that motivated us, and that's what did it for me. And I started, while I was in my undergrad, started considering graduate school, and through a series of great classes that I was just kind of dabbling in, I discovered my passion for the law and policy making, and then made my way to law school from there.
Outstanding. That's awesome. The fact that somebody reached out to you, I love what you just shared as well. Lack of representation in the legal field in the law. Was that something that you immediately were motivated by, or is that something that you realize, oh my gosh, after being in the studies, that you realize this is something that it's a good cause. Not only am I interested in law, but also I'm going to make a difference because other people will see me in the legal profession.
Actually, doctor, it was immediate. I went to Santa Barbara and really just engrossed myself in my community and my culture. And it was very important to me to connect with other students with my same background. I am second generation from Mexico, but my parents didn't go to college. They stopped school after high school, but were always proponents of higher education. And I kind of combined my interest in academics, my love for learning, with my focus on improving the disposition for my culture, for my people in the local community. And so I was able to marry both of those, I feel, by being a lawyer. And I'm very happy to share this field with anybody interested on this call. I'm excited to talk about what avenues there are. And for people that maybe haven't even considered that, they're still kind of dabbling in college and undergraduate, I want to shine the light on that path down the road, because there's some really interesting things that can be done.
That's terrific. That's awesome. And you've landed in the Community Partnership Prosecutor's Office. So share with us how that journey came up, and what inspired you to go down that path.
Absolutely. So first I'm just going to talk, if it's okay with you, a little bit about what a deputy district attorney is. So a deputy district attorney is a prosecutor. It's another term for deputy district attorney. They're interchangeable, prosecutor or deputy DA. We are the people's lawyer. So the anyone who commits a crime in the county of San Diego, whether it be a DUI, for example, somebody who's drinking and driving, and all the way to, the most severe murder or sexual assault, all of those cases would be handled by a deputy district attorney. They represent the people, in that we all want to live in a safe, law-abiding community. And so it's the prosecutor or the deputy DA's responsibility to prove up that a law was broken and submit the evidence to the jury so that a verdict can be reached. I have been doing courtroom work, just like what I just described, everything from DUIs to murders for the last actually 22 years. And it was a great courtroom experience, absolutely loved it. But in last December, so not quite a year yet, our elected DA, Summer Stephan, tapped me to come and be a community partnership prosecutor. So I'm still in the same office, but I have a little bit different of a role. I'm no longer in the courtroom, or at least very, very little at this point. And now I work out in the community, bringing awareness and information about public safety to the community. And I can give you lots of examples of what that looks like if you want.
Oh, that's very exciting. I mean, since you put it there, what are some of those responsibilities in your current role? I mean, I would love to hear more about that since prior to connecting with you, I had no idea there was a community partnership office. So this is very insightful for myself as well as our listeners. So please share.
That's fantastic. I hope to do lots of things for the community in this capacity. So a community partnership prosecutor this was the brainchild of our elected DA, Summer Stephan, and she feels passionately, and it's actually her mission, to have ethical prosecution in the courtroom, protection of our community, and education of our community. So the education or the prevention, crime prevention, is the piece that the community prosecutors work on. Crime prevention is done through education. So I go out and do presentations much like this. I also go to school districts and attend public safety meetings, answer questions. I attend community-based meetings. So anything from like a neighborhood watch all the way to an organization for newcomers to San Diego, or Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I mean, really, the gamut is wide and deep. It's any kind of organization or school district or anyone, even an individual citizen that has any issue on public safety. And then myself, and there's two other deputy DAs in my unit who do the same thing. And we each have a different region in San Diego. And we attend those meetings and provide that education. So a couple examples, I go to schools, usually middle school and high school, and do presentations on fentanyl, the dangers of fentanyl. I present on school safety. So talking about if there's really any kind of school safety, but predominantly like a shooter on campus and what that protocol is. I let the kids know. Also, internet safety, right? Kids are getting bullied through the internet. We talk about red flags and what kids can do about it, and also administrators and parents. So I work on crime prevention through education.
Wow. So that sounds very, very complex, Shanalise. And I'm curious, some of our attendees are at the community college level, potential, some high school students and some community members who happen to hear about this webinar. What things should they be considering if, in terms of their pathway? Like what courses, what experiences, because there's the law, but what you shared is clearly a lot more than just the law, right? So
Yes.
what kind of advice would you have for some folks who are just starting this semester in fall at the community college?
Well, talking to students is definitely one of my favorite parts of the job. As a matter of fact, in addition to being a community partnership prosecutor, I'm also involved with our recruitment for our office. So I do a lot of work with students, high school, junior college, college, and law school. So any students that are on this call, I'm happy to share my contact information with them so that they can get more information or attend a tour of the courthouse and of my office. I do that for lots of students, especially on school breaks in the summers, because I know the kids are trying to collect information on what types of jobs and internships are out there. So because I work with students so much, what I really like to share for somebody who's not quite sure they're at the right place, they're on your campus, they might still be in high school. What I like to suggest is really read a lot, because in law school, you read case after case after case. And that's really a foundational skill that you need to have. Also, reading helps with your cognitive development and your language skills. It broadens your vocabulary, all things that will make you a stronger candidate and more successful in law school. So I highly recommend reading. And then for an actual, then there's one other activity. At any level, there is speech and debate or mock trial. Highly, highly recommend that for high school, junior college, and college level students, and even law school students. We tell them to get involved in what they call trial advocacy when they're in law school. Those kind of practical experiences of getting comfortable speaking publicly, standing at a table, maybe not knowing all the questions that are going to be lobbed at you, but having the fortitude to think of an answer and be able to make eye contact and keep your calm about you is just excellent experience for whatever kind of law you go into. And as we know, even in other fields as well, education, business, there's always an opportunity to speak. So having that skill is really helpful for students. And so that's something I would recommend even at, 16, 17, 18 years old. That's something to work on.
That's outstanding. You shared, you kind of touched upon it. So there's the legal part of the office, right? But there's a lot of different career opportunities as well, aren't there?
There is.
Could you
That's
share a little bit more about that? Because I think typically individuals think it's getting your JD and that's all there is. But when I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, you shared it was really a whole ecosystem of opportunities that relate to the law and social justice. Can you share a little bit more about that?
I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, so I am an employee of the San Diego District Attorney's Office, and we are a division within the county. So I'm a county employee, and there are many, many divisions within the county, but just focusing on the District Attorney's Office, in our office alone, not only do we have positions for lawyers, we have positions for investigators, we have positions for paralegals, victim advocates, support staff, legislation, accountants, travel. I mean, so when you say ecosystem, I love that because it really does paint that picture that in our office in and of itself, we have so many different units and divisions that keep the ball moving forward. We even have we have our own IT department. We have and they work on like preparation of exhibits. They are really computer geniuses and can make accident reconstruction type videos. They can help us with exhibits for trial on murder cases. They help us organize all of the surveillance video that now exists, right? Everybody has a phone in their hand with a camera. So when we go to trial now, often we have sometimes even dozens of videos from people's phones, ring cameras, surveillance on the street that we have to compile to present in front of the jury. And we have people on staff who have that expertise and assist us. So what I like to tell students is if you have an interest in criminal law, but you're not exactly sure where you would fit in that piece, come and volunteer or work for us. We have opportunities. The position is called student worker. It's a paid position. And as long as they're a full-time college student, they are able to come and work for us, and you can get exposed to any and all of these departments, which kind of opens up that whole world to you, and they can get exposed and marry up their own passion or skill set with what we have in the office. And so they might just be maybe not a lawyer in the office, but another position that meets their own personal passion, whether it's computers or stats or legislation, all kinds of things, numbers, we have everything in the office.
Wow. So, that's pretty impressive because, it's and hear you talk about it, it's very inclusive, right? It's not solely the prosecutor. We need prosecutors, clearly, and defense attorneys, but it's a much broader than that. And I love what you just shared that there's paid internships that relate to this. So what are the hours, expectations around that? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So the student worker position, which is, I'm not able to see the audience, but I know from what you said, I think we have some high school students and some college students. So For high school students would not be able to have an internship because you have to be a full-time college student. Once you're in college, you can be taking full-time classes at Grossmont and you would be able to work, and the expectation would be 20 hours a week. In the summertime, the students in the student worker position, they're expected to work full-time. Unless they're going to classes. If they take the summer off for school, then it's expected you work full-time, but it is a paid position. And we have a website where they can apply to. I'm just gonna look over to my right here. It's www.sdcda.org. And on that website, they can find all the different job placement availability options there, and they'll find lists and lists, because in addition to district attorney's office, there's obviously many other county departments that also offer paid positions. And what's so great is that the students are in a position to get paid, but also learn. Because what we know is you learn by exposure, right? So it's a kind of a win-win for everybody. We get somebody who is a hard worker and motivated, and they get exposed to lots of different potential career paths.
Wow, exciting. I might apply myself.
Love that.
All right. So, and you started a little bit with this, the diversity and equity part. So, can you share a little bit more about how the field itself tries to become more diverse and address equity, social justice issues a little bit? I know it's a lot. You can probably talk about this for hours, but just maybe share a little bit about that because we're all kind of curious about it.
Certainly. Absolutely. Diversity and equity is critical to our office, and it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. So first, just one thing to highlight is our hiring process. So in our interviews for any position in the office, diversity and equity are addressed through questions when the individual comes to interview. And that's because it's a priority to our office as county employees to reflect the community that we serve. My fancy title is Deputy District Attorney, but what I am is a public servant. My position is here to assist the victims who have been harmed by someone else who's committed a crime, and to also assist the general public with crime prevention through education. So the fact that we look for individuals who, and diversity looks a lot of different ways, right? It's not just race or language or religion, but is in fact consider the person as a whole. Where were they raised? What job experience do they have? Are they a veteran? Are they a former firefighter? Are they someone, this is now their second career? They're maybe a little bit older than someone who just came out of college or law school. We look for diversity in a lot of different lights because we value mirroring the community that we see and then that we serve. So in addition, as I said, from the questions that you get in the interview all the way through our process and how we approach work, how we serve, the fact that community prosecutors are placed throughout the entire county. My area, I cover, Mountain Empire School District as well as Cajon Valley. I go to Lemon Grove and I go to Julian. I mean, every area from my East region is covered, as well as the other areas by the other DAs that are in this unit. So understanding that we value everybody in this community, whether they're newcomers and just came to the United States today, or somebody who's been here for generations and generations. So those are just a few of the ways that our office works to provide diversity and equity in everything that we do, from the people that we have in the office to the work that we do.
Wow. Right. That's outstanding. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I have a feeling just in hearing you, I could probably answer this question, but I want you to respond to it. What are some of the most rewarding aspects of working in the law for you?
That is a great question. I'm very blessed because I have been able to marry my personal passion with my profession, which for me is how I've been able to create work-life balance. I love being in service of others. the fact that I have a job that gets to give a voice to the voiceless, that I get to use my education to help people who don't have that education to get justice in the courtroom. There is no better job for me. I feel like this was made for me. Um, the skill set that is necessary to be a prosecutor is to have a love of learning, because you never know what kind of case you're going to get is going to, land on your desk. So you're going to have to constantly learn about new areas in the law. You have to be a strong advocate because you're speaking for people who can't speak for themselves. And you have to have strong ethics, because everything that we do um, has to be done with fairness and equity first and foremost. So unlike other areas of law where people might talk about winning or losing, we don't speak like that in the district attorney's office. It's not about winning or losing. It's about equity and fairness and justice. And so working towards that, being able to always just work towards the right thing. What's the next right thing to do?
Mhm.
It gives me a sense of peace every day, and also motivation to go out and fight for justice for my community.
That's awesome. Um, I'm sure you've encountered some challenges along the way. That you can share a couple on how, they've made you more resilient, stronger.
Of course. I think the hardest thing about, well, I think it's helpful to say people don't generally come to a lawyer unless there's a problem. The problem they can't solve themselves. Doesn't matter if you're a family attorney, a bankruptcy attorney, a prosecutor, we deal with problems. So the work that you're going to do as a lawyer is serious and very important in any area of the law that you practice. As a prosecutor, I think the hardest piece of my job is that I'm the person who's facing me that has been a victim of a crime and has been hurt, both mentally, physically, and often also financially, whether their home was broken into, a loved one was harmed or killed. The weight of the work is very heavy. And as we know, as human beings, that can weigh heavy on your mind and your soul and your heart. I get fortitude through the fact that I'm helping, that whatever I do and all the pieces, the listening as we go, the preparation I do on the cases, the work I do out in the community, it's to help. And so even when I can't give that person exactly what they want, like they want their loved one back, I do everything that I can to get justice for them and to elevate their voice. And that makes the heavy load of being surrounded by a hard topic, a criminal offense, easier to bear, manageable, so that because I know that I'm helping, I'm working towards justice.
Uh, Wonderful. I do want to switch gears a little bit to a question that's been posted in the chat.
Sure.
It's sort of a response to a question earlier, but maybe you can pick up on this. So the question is, are we able to see an example of appealing resume that might come through your office, or maybe some of the content that is sought? So maybe let's take the last part, which, what should they incorporate in a resume, in particular, I would assume related to the internship program.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, let's cover some topics. So students often ask me, like, I've only worked in food service, or I've only worked in retail. How do I make the jump to a business environment? Those skills that you get in food services and in retail are very applicable to working for the county. Frankly, they're very applicable in any job. But as I said, as a public servant, primarily what I do is outreach to the community and communication with the community. So demonstrating that you have skills listening, and being able to mirror back what somebody says, being calm in a stressful situation, meet people's needs, those type of skills which you get in food service and retail and those very first jobs when you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old are very applicable applicable and should be highlighted. And that's how I would do it. I would utilize your career services, have a professional review your resume, which I know you have there on staff at Grossmont. But I would have a mind when I'm writing my resume and my skill set to focus on my work with the public, listening, and dealing with stressful situations in a calm demeanor. So hopefully that helps.
Great. So making sure that you emphasize the soft skills. I like the way you mentioned it's not the type of job, is what you've actually learned, how that applies to the internship. In some cases working directly with a variety of folks. So that's wonderful.
Yes.
And I'm glad you plugged in the career services. So Grossmont College does have career services where you can get your resume reviewed, even do mock interviews. So switching gears to the ethics, so the whole ethical part, like what can you share with the audience about the role of ethics in the field, and maybe even their social media platforms and what they do?
Yes,
You
that's
can combine
fantastic.
both,
There, and ethics is another really broad topic. But I think in relation to students, it is important to remember that everybody has social media now and phones at their ready, at their hip. And anything that you post on any one of your social media platforms will be reviewed by any potential employer, not just the county. All employers see their employees as the face of the office. You're in fact the front-facing person, the president of that company, whether it's Walmart all the way down to the county of San Diego. That CEO is not the one that interacts with the public. It's those front boots on the ground individuals that are right at the counter, right at the desk, answering the phones. So they're gonna check out your social media. Who are you? Not during the panel interview. They want to know who you are after hours, when you're on campus, when you're relaxing at home with your friends. So if you're posting things that are questionable or show not great judgment, and we see that, right? We see that a lot. People make rash decisions. They air out a grievance. They make threats to somebody. They make a very off-color joke. Those kinds of things can't be emphasized enough. You really want to put your best foot forward. So just like you're going to wear a clean shirt and have a smile on your face, you want to make sure that your social media is well scrubbed and really represents the person that you are, your enthusiasm, your interest, and your own career growth.
Good advice. And if you're listening, go check out your own social media just in case. Um, Technology. How is technology influencing the work that you do? And, how does that, I'm sure it's got a big influence, but talk a little bit about that, in terms of the direct work and maybe how it fits in with the other areas of the ecosystem we talked about earlier.
Sure. I'll mention two. So the first one that comes to mind is, which I kind of talked about, was the cameras. Okay. So as phones have become, more prolific in our life, and just like, I mean, often we're not even walking without the phone in our hand anymore, right? So there's so much more cameras and surveillance and video. So just that fact alone, since I've been prosecuting cases in this amount of time, the evidence presentation has changed tremendously. When I started doing trials, I used flip charts, if you can believe that, to talk to juries about jury instructions and the law, and explaining the law to them before they would go back into the jury deliberating room. Now most of our evidence is digital that we use in the courtroom, and our presentation to the jury is definitely all digital. We do our closing argument on screens. We're doing PowerPoints. We're doing video shows as we link evidence through. That's fantastic for those young lawyers who have grown up with phones in their hands. But for someone like myself, I really rely on tech experts to help me build PowerPoints, to help me link together different surveillance videos to help me create exhibits for the jury to understand, even, using drone cameras to create like a visual for the path of pursuit. Just to give you some examples. So there might be somebody on the call who loves watching Law and Order type shows and is a techie, and they're thinking, well, how could I get a job in criminal law? That skill set is very, very necessary, because even the newer DAs in my office, to build the case and prepare it, you need support. And so having those tech savvy individuals that can put fabulous exhibits together is very, very needed. And we actually have a unit just for that. So I urge everybody with every passion to still consider county employment and look at some of the options that are available. I know the next kind of techie thing that's coming is AI. We haven't seen much yet, but I mean, we all feel it coming. I think AI will have probably a role in some of the motions work that we do, where you're pulling up, old cases and citing it for the judge, and you're going back, 50, 60 years as to what the trajectory of the law has been. And I think AI is going to make that work much quicker, because it's going to be able to pull all the relevant cases for us. So it remains to be seen how AI will play out in the law, but I think it'll have a very big role.
Wow. And you touched, my next question was around trends. So you definitely answered that. AI seems to be in the discussion nonstop uh, in our educational sector, and obviously in yours, in terms of the law. Um, how can students stay more informed about what's going on? Like, what do they plug into? What can they sign up for? Just share a little bit about that, because there's so much information out there. But what would you suggest that a student, future lawyer, connect and stay abreast of all the topics that are going on, or a good portion of them?
Yes, I understand. Everybody's busy, right? You feel the pressure on your time. What I recommend, a couple of things, no matter what level you are. Reading, for sure. I think reading, as I mentioned earlier, really expands your vocabulary, really expands your mind. Also, writing. So whether you join speech and debate club like we talked about, or do a mock trial, or just join a reading club and do fictional reading, it's very, very important that you get very accustomed and actually, I don't even want to say it that way. I want to say it, we all can write, but there's always room for improvement, right? I mean, even you and I, who've been in our careers for a few decades, we still have room for improvement. We lean on someone to edit our writing. We still grow. That's what I want to suggest for students, is put yourself in a place where you're still being challenged and continuing to grow, because reading and writing is really critical for success, in ultimately to be a lawyer, but also in all the steps between there, in college, in law school, and applying for jobs. You really need to be a very, very good, very strong writer and reader. Other than that, the other piece that I really like to recommend, if you're not really sure where you want to land yet, it's really helpful to lean into what you already like. If you're somebody who enjoys tech, maybe you're going to want to, lean into an AI group or a robotics club, and you can possibly connect your passion with your potential career. Maybe you're somebody that loves clothes and fashion. Well, you can do a sewing club. Maybe you'll want to do trademark or copyright law, because all the big designers have lawyers on staff to do that. I mean, really, the options are only limited by your imagination. There are so many fields. You can be in HR, you can be, as I mentioned, contracts law, you can wills and trusts. There's so many different things. And of course, being a prosecutor, which is my personal favorite.
Great. Thank you so much. I do want to share another question that's been posted in the chat. How do you maintain a balance between your job and your family? In this case, this person references having a husband and children. Like, how do you balance those out?
That's a great question. I think, like every other working mother and probably working parent at this point, because we have a good division of labor, is the balls are always up in the air, right? You are juggling a couple of things as a parent. But when you have a job that really fills your bucket, that you're really passionate about, you want to juggle. I think when you're doing work that you're not personally motivated by, that you're not connected to, that you're not passionate about, then that juggling gets much harder because you're not connected to it. It's not feeding you. But when the work feeds you, the juggling becomes easier. I it's hard to explain, but that's really what it is. It becomes easier because you get so much out of it. Probably even more than, at least I do. I get more than even what I put out there, and I do this 110%. I absolutely love what I do. I bring my passion, my motivation, my expertise, my experience every single day to whatever the day looks like, whatever project I'm working on. But I'm married, I have 2 children. I'm also a dedicated mother and wife. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. Just like all of us, we're all kind of working at it. But that's honestly my biggest key is marrying your passion with your career. And when you do that, it's easier to do the juggle because you're fed by the work. Your soul is fed. Um, that's that's my 2 cents.
That's great advice. So I think a big part is, once you find your passion, which you clearly have, it it's almost you can juggle things, or you're happy to juggle things a lot more, right? I think
You
that's
are, because I talk about it everywhere I go. I mean, it doesn't matter where I am. I love being a DA. I talk to young people and I ask them all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm at the shoe store and the salesperson is helping me, or I'm at the market and I'm talking to the cashier, or the young man who's collecting the carts. I know that we're all on the path to try to find that passion. I'm not saying it's easy. One thing that I do recommend to students is if you're not really sure yet what your passion is, it's good to kind of make a list. You can do it on your notes in your phone or get an old-fashioned journal. What do you like doing? Where do you spend your time when you have free time? And write that down. And then also talk to your roommates or your partner and maybe even your parents or siblings and say, when am I the happiest? Because that will give people who love you and care about you and are around you will help you. They'll notice what you seem to gravitate to, when you seem the happiest, and it'll help formulate that list. And then again, you can go to the Career Center and show them that list. And I bet you they can start pointing you towards direction of some pathways.
outstanding. This is really great advice. Kind of at the tail end of our conversation, our lunch conversation. What other advice would you offer those that are listening, around careers in law or anything else that you've picked up in your tenure?
Thank you for just giving me the floor. I won't take long, but one thing I really want to encourage everyone on this call to do is to look for mentors. And I tell this to students, and they always say, well, how do I find a mentor? It's as easy as and straightforward as just asking. You can just go up to any individual. You see what they're doing, you hear about it. Me, Dr. Ayala, you can just say, I'm really interested in what you do. And even if you don't know the details other than the fact that we participated in this webinar, you can say that. I went to your webinar. How did you get to this? What's your degree in? And believe me, people like us, we love sharing our path because we love investing in the future. And so I highly recommend doing that. The other thing that can help you is if you're not even sure, you're like, well, I don't have a lot of adults in my life that have a career I'm interested in. You can ask your friends, your neighbors, and your parents. You can say, I'm really interested in being a librarian or whatever it is. Do you know any librarians? And I guarantee you, if you just go to your circle, somebody will know somebody. I get those kinds of calls all the time, and I love helping and connecting people. So if you have a passion and you're not sure, call me. Start there. You can email me, and I'm happy to get you started because I am out in the community a lot. I know a lot of different people, and I did it myself. And it was very, very fruitful because like I was mentioned, I think I mentioned my parents didn't go to college. And so when I got the idea through my professor that I wanted to go to law school, but I didn't know any lawyers, I wasn't sure what to do. So my mom, who used to cut hair, and she told me, she said, well, why don't you come to the shop and meet all of my clients and tell them all, one of them's bound to be a lawyer. And that's what I did. I went and I sat at her shop on a Saturday and just told all her clients, and through that, and then I met someone who connected me with a lawyer, and then my mom said, just, we didn't have email back then, or cell phones, and she said, just call them up and see if you can take them to coffee and ask for 20 minutes of their time, which is basically like an informational interview. And I did 20 of those with
Wow.
all different kinds of lawyers, just so I had an understanding of what is law school? What does that look like? I mean, I didn't even know how long it took. And so I highly recommend students do that. And it's easier than you think. Once you do it the first time, it's really easy after that because people love talking about their careers. And so it's not hard. It's not intimidating. I know it sounds like it, but it's really not.
That's really great advice. It's also kind of the formula for success too, right? I would think.
Absolutely. You got to raise your hand. You got to ask. What I'd like to tell students, be interested and interesting. That's what you have to do. If you show that you're interested in learning more, collecting information, getting a job, people want to invest in you. They want to help you. So all you have to do is seem, is be interesting. Just show your enthusiasm, show that you're motivated, and people will clamor to help.
Wow, that's so exciting. So on that note, we will call it a day. For those who are listening, we will post this on YouTube, and we will send Deputy District Attorney Ochoa's information out to all of you. And so thanks for joining us. Thank you, Shanalise. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
Bye.
here, bye.